We are part of the Fired Up Sports network of shows. Please check out other We are part of the Fired Up Sports network of shows. Please check out other We are part of the Fired Up Sports network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports.
All right, Eric, I don't know what's going on with the intro stuff, but welcome in. This is Drunk on the Phillies.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
E-A-G-L-E-S, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball. Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup. For the lead. Yes!
Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Oh, all right. So we're back in something a little funky in the algorithm there, but we're back talking all things Phils on this trade deadline Tuesday morning. But it's feeling a little funky. But Eric, before we get into anything, I gotta give people a little heads up on what I'm wearing. Huge shout out to the Kelsey's Garage Beer. There was an online thing on 4th of July where like you could win something, right? And you enter yourself in with like thousands and tens of thousands of other people. Well, I won. So I got the Garage Beer 4th of July hot dog America flag shirt and shorts. So I don't know where I wear this to, but any kind of social event outside, I don't know if my wife would approve, but you know, it's part of the repertoire now. So huge shout out to Garage Beer. If you haven't tried it, go try it. They're not a sponsor, but you could be. So looking forward to sporting the Garage Beer shorts and shirt wherever it warrants.
Yeah,
Eric, my shirt looks a lot better than the Phillies. How's that
definitely.
for a transition?
I do like the shirt there. I think there's a lot of different occasions you could probably wear that. That looks like a fun one.
It's 4th of July, Memorial Day, anything America. So
Yeah.
what do you thought? The Phils have hit that spot in the season. They look really funky. It's just weird. It's just a weird spot. They're entering this Yankee series. They've really looked. Even if you go back before the All-Star break, they're on 4 consecutive series losses.
Mm-hmm.
They really haven't looked good. Offense is not. You're not that you're even getting timely hitting, but you're not getting really. You're getting spurts of offensive production. The pitching has been inconsistent. You've gotten great outings from, you have the 9-inning, performance from Tyler Phillips the other day, and then you get Zach Wheeler on the mound last night, and he's given up solo home runs to Yankees batting practice to start the game. It's been frustrating to say the least.
Yeah, it's definitely a rough stretch, and as frustrating as it is, you kind of have to expect it was coming at some point, right? You're going to have every team's going to go through these. And the one fortunate thing the Phillies have going for them is everyone else is losing too. So the Braves aren't making up any ground on them. The Dodgers have kind of been in a little bit. They're kind of spinning their tires a little bit too. So it's like I'd almost rather them. I know it stinks, and it's like tuning in every night now is almost like, oh God, how can something get worse? And I think last night may have been the icing on the cake there. But it's one of those things where I'd rather see them like get this nonsense out of the way now. There's too many bats in this lineup that are going to get hot again. So Bryce has been cold. JT basically has been non-existent since he's come back. But you're starting to see some positives in other places too, like Schwarber's power seems like he's starting to find that power swing a little bit. Stott has been hitting well. I think over his last 7 games, he's hitting almost like 350, I think. So there's a couple little positives to see. They're just not putting it all together. I think, Thompson even said it the other day, but I think everyone who's watching can see what's going on, right? The days when the pitching's on, the offense is cold, and the days when the offense is on, the pitching's cold. So it's like they can't really seem to get everything kind of going at once. And I think, that's just part of that, mid-season funk they're in. And hopefully, it only lasts a little bit longer and they can kind of get back to their old winning ways.
Yeah, I long for the days when it was fun to just tune in and when I'm looking at going back at some of the stuff that we were talking about in previous episodes, going through the stats and the offensive efficiency that they had early on in the season. It was wow. Those were fun. Now it just you're at this point through this stretch, you're kind of bracing for impact. And you see the timely hitting stuff that stuff. I think for me is probably the most frustrating because you have opportunity like Trey Turner last night came up and in consecutive at bats has the same offensive output, right? The ground ball to third base that in all likelihood should have been double play. He gets you at that point in the game, right? You're down early. You've already given up the 3 home runs and you have bases loaded with 1 out with one of your best hitters. Like you can't have that outcome and still expect to be competitive. You have to look for opportunities for this team to be able to put teams away early because what the Yankees have done. If you can put the Yankees away early, right, you get into their bullpen. It's probably their weakest spot in their pitching. Their pitching it's also been very inconsistent throughout this stretch. They've been playing really not great baseball going into this series. And you had the opportunity to maybe put them away early, right? You bases loaded, 1 out, and you're looking at Turner, Harper, and Bohm, which are 3 of your best hitters. You just can't think that you're not getting the offensive production in this stretch of games that you were getting from Trey Turner, leading into his stretch at the end of June, beginning of July was pretty impressive. You're going to have to get better in order to get back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Turner was on a torrent streak there for a little while. But he's in a little funk right now. Again, that type of stuff's going to happen. But Bryce said it the other day, we need these superstars to kind of pick it up, right? Himself included. Yeah. So you need that. And situational hitting has kind of been on their side almost all season, where you have these situations where guys are on base and there's always just those frustrating ground outs or strikeouts, whatever it might be. But yeah, it just seems like right now they just can't get on. They can't get on a roll. They can't kind of get everything going at once. And yeah, it's just been it's been ugly. It's been ugly baseball. That game the other day with all when they were making the errors or just not covering. It's just you could tell they're definitely in a little funk right now. But as I said earlier, all you can hope for is that they kind of get themselves right quickly here. Because again, they aren't losing ground, but you also can't bank on every other team to continue to lose too. They need to continue to gain ground, get that momentum back. Especially when we get into September, because the way the playoffs seem to work is the hottest team is the one that usually makes it the furthest. Sometimes it's not always about talent, which obviously the Phillies have, but you also want to go in there with momentum streak kind of on your side.
Yeah, no, and to go back to something you were talking about, right? The top 4 teams in the NL during the month of July. This is before yesterday's game, right? The Phillies are 10-11, the Dodgers are 10-11, the Brewers are 9-11, and the Braves are 9-12, right? So you cannot expect that that's going to continue. Teams are going to end up getting right. And you're talking about the trade deadline is what, 6:00 tonight.
Yep.
So curious to see a lot of teams start making moves yesterday. That trade deadline was really busy. But I think in order for this team to get right, you're going to need the guys that are on the roster to be able to produce, but you're not getting enough consistency, right? Look at the game on Sunday against the Indians, where you get Schwarber, who, apropos on Schwarbaum beach towel giveaway day, right, goes deep twice in what ends up being some epically crushed balls. And he's the 11th player in Major League Baseball history with at least 40 leadoff home runs. And this stat is wild. So Ricky Henderson obviously leads that list with 81, but Ricky Henderson batted leadoff 2,875 games. Kyle Schwarber has hit 40 leadoff home runs in 447 games.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The proficiency at that, and it's not going to take much for him to leapfrog a bunch of guys. Because you got above him on that list, Charlie Blackmon at 40, Brady Anderson at 44, Jimmy Rollins at 46. But even just as a comparison, right? Jimmy Rollins is number 8 on that list at 46 leadoff home runs. He played 1,507 games.
Right. So almost quadruple the amount of time that Schwarber's done.
Wild stuff. But you're going to you get the production from him, but essentially no one else in that lineup. You get last night, you get the home run from Marsh, you get the RBI late from Marsh, but nothing else. You're going to need this lineup to put it all together. Because and we'll talk about trade deadline stuff in a minute, but I don't think that there is, from all things that I've heard, read, whatever, there's not a huge player move happening. You might see another move around the fringes, but talk about the trade. So we've got 2 trades, right? You have the trade with Baltimore and then the trade with the Angels.
I think that the trade with Baltimore makes a lot of sense. I know people are hoping for, I guess, a bigger name or kind of a more impact player, but I think Hayes fits exactly what the Phillies were saying they were looking for the whole time. I think Luis Robert Jr. was a pipe dream. I think, we heard that name. He was available. It's like, he has insane makeup. He can be very talented when he's healthy, but I really don't think the Phillies were ever very serious about him in what the White Sox were asking in return. So I think Hayes fits exactly what they were saying, right? They wanted a right-handed bat who can play, left field. I was a bit, I guess the way it all ended up working out, it was kind of good in a way to get Christian Pache to get unload him there off the roster. So Anthony, I think he had his moments here in Philadelphia where he was really good. I think back to the playoff series in 2022 and everything. So obviously we're going to miss him, but we have other pieces, right? Like Kirkring could basically be that guy. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that other fringe move you were talking about today ends up being another bullpen piece. But the Hayes move, to me, I think what we gave up wasn't bad. And you didn't give up. You didn't give up any prospects. No, you didn't have to worry about prospect capital at all.
You essentially gave up Christian Pache, which was going to be a guy that was going to eventually be moved off the roster anyway.
Right.
And you gave up Sir Anthony Dominguez, who essentially you kind of knew what you had. And you got a guy who threw hard but was inconsistent, was not going to be, when you look at the other guys around the roster, and the other guys were in the back end of that bullpen, where was he going to pitch? He was not going to pitch in any high leverage spots. And I kind of look at the Orioles and they've essentially created like a pipeline of Phillies offcasts in their pitching rotation. Now they've added Zach Eflin. They have Craig Kimbrell. They're adding Sir Anthony Dominguez. I just you didn't give up much, and you essentially swap out with the combination of the two trades. You swap out Christian Pache and Sir Anthony Dominguez, and you're adding in Hayes and Estevez, which both of those, when you look at player for player, both of those are upgrades over what you had before.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I think, especially with the Hayes trade, I think he does fit the bill exactly what they're looking for. I know so far, it's a very small sample size. He hasn't been super productive, but I think it happens. And the Estevez move was awesome. Like, I mean, I know they gave up some heavy prospect package there with Clausen and Aldegari, but it's like those guys are kind of in a log jam anyway, right? Like, where are they going to go? Our rotation's pretty much set for the next 3 years or so anyway. So you kind of got to give up and to improve now, right? This team has the makeup and has the build to go far in a postseason here, and I think win now is the name of the game.
Yeah, I think you're looking at guys that were in the lower end of your minor league pool. And if you got to give up guys, that's probably where you're going to be most likely to be able to move guys. And I think the only way that this move ends up backfiring is if those guys end up with the Angels as like top of the rotation guys, which the likelihood that happens in the next couple of years is very low. So if you're in a win now, which they are, this is a no-brainer for me. And you when you swap out those two positions, the outfield spot and the relief pitcher spot, you got better. Now you're certainly not getting the offensive production that you would want out of Austin Hayes so far. It's not been great, but I think I like the idea of playing him every day as opposed to platooning him with Brandon Marsh and letting Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas platoon themselves through center field.
Yeah, no, I like that too. I think it was a little surprising at first. I think the way everyone's kind of looking at it was it's going to be Rojas in center and then the Hayes Marsh kind of platoon in left. But Marsh can play center. I have no problem with doing that. The only thing that like I might get, I could kind of see maybe backfiring here is if Rojas stops getting enough at bats to the point where it maybe stunts his, albeit slow offensive development. So I could see that maybe becoming an issue at some point. But I think if you look at it and you have Hayes on the field every game, and then one of those two, Rojas or Marsh in center field, I think that makes your lineup better, right? I think that's ultimately what we're looking at here. And, especially his numbers against lefties are great. When it comes to a postseason series, you're going to see tough lefties. And who would you rather have up there? Johan Rojas or Austin Hayes? I mean, I think it's pretty much a no-brainer, right? So, yeah, I like that a lot, and I like kind of how they're managing that.
Yeah, I think the idea of him playing every day, there was just a log jam for him in Baltimore. They have a glutton of young outfield prospects, and he just essentially didn't fit the mold of what they were trying to build in that outfield.
Right.
You're talking about a guy who was an all-star last year, who has had a history of offensive production. I think your most likely opportunity for you to get production out of him is to play him every day. I think platooning him is not your best. It's not the best and brightest move. And then when I look at the move to get Estevez and put him as another arm, another right-handed arm in the back end of that bullpen, you learned last year in that series in Arizona, you need bullets. You just need to be able to throw as many bullets as you possibly can. So whether that's now, if it's Estevez, if it's Hoffman, if it's, I'm banking on the idea that Alvarado gets right. That you've got Strom, so you've got at least 4 guys, 2 righties, 2 lefties in the back end of your bullpen. That, depending on the night, you can, bank on them coming in. And Estevez has a really, really good track record at the back end of the games, right? He's essentially, righty or lefty. The batting average against is 170. And in cleanup hitters, which is where you need to almost stop the bleeding, right? 15 plate appearances, 0 hits.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. He's all of the numbers that I've seen, everything from him are really encouraging. I think he's going to be really good in that 9th inning role, and I think this might be the first time in Rob Thompson's tenure as Phillies manager that we actually may see. Now, I don't know if he's going to always pitch the 9th. But I think it's the first time we have a guy where it's like, okay, this guy, I guess, they used Kimbrel a lot in the 9th, I guess, last year, but a guy that we can like really, really, really rely on in that role. I liked Hoffman when he was used there, but, it was kind of always done by matchup, right? It would sometimes be Hoffman, sometimes be Alvarado in that 9th inning role. So I think now we have a guy that we can go to and, and kind of trust, right? I think he hadn't let up a run since Memorial Day weekend, I think it was, when we acquired him. So that's always good to see. And I know his opponent whip was it was definitely under 1. I think it was like 0.7 something. So that's all good stuff to see from him. So yeah, I really like both moves. Again, I know the prospect package to get Estevez was maybe a little bit steeper than some people wanted to see, but overall, I think what he brings and how he strengthens an already pretty strong bullpen is very, very helpful.
Yeah, and another Estevez stat in the last 365 days has only given up 5 home runs.
Yeah, there you go.
Two of those home runs are by Phillies.
That's right.
In the same game on April 30th. Can you name those players?
Hold on. April 30th. That was in
LA.
Philly? In LA. Okay. So I'm thinking of the wrong thing here. I can't.
Casty.
Okay.
And Johan Rojas.
Rojas. I was actually listening to another podcast and they were talking about that, and I should have known the Rojas one. Man. Yeah,
this was like the late into the night. If you were up watching, you were probably up too late anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But it was on April 30th. So that was the 2-run home run to give the Phillies the 7-5 lead late, and then that was the 9th inning.
Oh, okay.
The 9th inning.
So it was a very late game. That I probably was. That's probably why I don't remember, because I don't think I was probably. I was probably not watching at that point.
Yeah, you and I both. As far as the trade deadline goes,
mm-hmm.
Have they done enough?
I think when you look at what the team said entering it, I think they checked off the 2 boxes that they wanted. I guess, did they do enough to move the needle? I don't know. I think it remains to be seen what Hayes does as an everyday player. I think we already know what we're going to have in Estevez, and unless, something goes wrong, I think the bullpen move was great. I wouldn't be surprised if we get one other reliever before 6:00 today.
Okay.
I wouldn't expect like a big move, right? Estevez was that big move, but there's a couple other middle type relievers who I can see them maybe going after, just because, like you said, in a postseason series, you need someone who you just need arms, right? Starting pitchers are on a shorter leash in the postseason. So bullpen guys get used even more so than in the regular season, probably. So you have to have a full arsenal of solid relief pitchers. And I think, if they had one more, kind of middle inning type guy today, I think that would be a little bit better. I think they did. I mean, I think but again, it all depends on how Hayes pans out as an everyday player, right? Is he going to start hitting righties? were his power numbers so low simply because at Camden Yards they moved the fences back and increased the height too to make it almost impossible for right-handers to hit a home run there. So I don't know. I think he's kind of the question mark right now, right? Like, is he going to be the type of impact player that we're kind of looking for? Like, I mean, obviously we're hitting him in the 9-hole, right? So we're not expecting, Bryce Harper or Trey Turner or Kyle Schwarber numbers from the guy. We just need him to, get on base, hit against left-handed pitching, and score some runs. So that's really what we're looking for. So I think obviously, hindsight's going to be 20/20 here, but if he can do all those things, right, then yeah, they did do enough. But it's one of those things where I think it's going to, I think like on paper, yes, they did enough, right? They checked off the boxes that they entered the trade deadline looking for, but I don't know if it'll definitely be enough come postseason.
Yeah, I'm hesitant. Hindsight, obviously, right? You're saying is always 20/20, right? You look back and you look at the moves that they could have made, right? We've talked about it before. We've talked about Brent Rooker. We've talked about Luis Robert, and those are the big names. It seems like Crochet is going to be a guy who could potentially be on the move today, but Robert is not. Brent Rooker is a guy that, for whatever reason, he and Mason Miller, even though the A's are not ultra competitive right now, they seem to be wanting to hold on to those guys. So I don't know if there was a huge name to add, but I look at, and I think what we've talked about even just today, you're going to need the guys that you have in-house to be productive. And your best avenue to be able to get to through the postseason, get into, the NLCS, the World Series, is with your big guys and having those big guys be productive. I don't know what, do you have a guy in mind today?
Not really, no. I don't. Like I said, because there's not really any, I'm not necessarily saying, hey, they have to do something today, right? Like a couple of days ago, yes, I had. Now, I will say Austin Hayes was not on my radar really at all. But I like the move. Estevez was on my radar, right? Him, Tanner Scott, Kyle Finnegan, those types of guys were all on my radar. Now they get Estevez, so the other guys are probably not. So I really don't know what they're going to look to in terms of if they do get any more relief help. I know it was kind of rumored out there that they were talking about Garrett Crochet. I don't really see the fit, but I mean, you can never have too much pitching. I think he's going to come at a pretty steep price, though. But at the same time, you could probably argue the fact that he's already at he's going to have to limit his innings and everything like that. So maybe you can talk him down a little bit there. I don't really know. So I mean, I think they're going to probably kick the tires there, but I don't think they're going to make a massive move today. No. And I don't really have a name. But you made a good point. Like, other than once Luis Robert was basically said, okay, the asking price would be too high, there wasn't really another big name out there that they were really set to acquire. So I think, like I said, I think they did their job. I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, a little fringe type move today to help out the bullpen, or maybe even a back end starter or something like that. But I'm also, I could also see it become 6 o'clock and we have the same roster we have that we're talking right now. So
yeah, I think in a minute we can talk about some of the other moves in the division, but I might give you a guy that is a Phillies killer that I don't know where he plays. I don't know how he would fit into this lineup, but it feels like a Matt Stairs-ish type move. Josh Bell.
I knew you were going to say that because he is a Phillies killer. I think, honestly, it would be good for the Phillies to pick him up just so he can't play for a different team.
Because I can just envision a scenario where he ends up with the Dodgers or the Braves. And for whatever reason, when he was in his time with the Marlins, he would just come up for whatever reason and just crush balls from both sides of the plate. And I'm going, I could think of worse options of guys to just have on your bench to be, to come all right, you ready? The Game 7 last year, bases loaded, Johan Rojas. a situation like that where
Mm-hmm.
he just comes in, he's on your bench for legit that one at bat. I could think of worse options. Like, would I rather have Josh Bell as a switch hitting power hitter to pinch hit in a pinch, or do I want Weston Wilson? Like if that's my option, like I know Weston Wilson was in your farm system and he's a really great story, but like if I'm trying to win a World Series, I know you're gonna have to eat some salary, and I know like that's not my job. My job, like my role in this is to say like I would rather have that dude than some of the guys that they got on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a track record, right? I mean, Weston Wilson has had a couple big hits here and there, but he reminds me of one of those like quad A type guys, right? He's like he's good for AAA, but I think he gets exposed in the majors a little bit. But and the other thing is the Phillies pinch hitting this year has been terrible, like abysmally bad. I think I heard, was it yesterday or 2 days ago on the radio? I heard that I think the only person who there's only like one home run or pinch hit home run. Oh, it was David Dahl in London. It was their only RBI that a pinch hitter has for the Phillies this year. I think Scott Franzke said it was their first pinch hit RBI or something like that on U.S. soil this year, or something like that. It's just crazy how bad the pinch hitting's been. And I mean, the thing is like the lineup we have, most of these guys are going to be playing every game, and without having a pitcher, spot, the pinch hitter, I guess, becomes a little less valuable. But still, like you said, that spot that against Arizona last year, where Rojas was having maybe the worst offensive series that in the history of baseball playoffs, you didn't really have anyone to go to, right? And I mean, whether it's Josh Bell or something else, I mean, it would be kind of fun just to I said it kind of in jest before, but it'd be kind of fun to just make sure he doesn't go to another team. He has a proven track record. I don't really know where he goes. Like it would have to be Weston Wilson probably going back down. But I guess stranger things have happened.
Yeah. Transition to pitching a little bit. So pitching has been inconsistent. Talk about the fifth starter spot, because they've gotten a lot of production from a bunch of different guys. You start off the year with a really wildly productive Spencer Turnbull. You talk about guys that are you're getting now production from Tyler Phillips. Talk about the guys that they've had in that fifth rotation spot.
Yeah, it's been kind of a revolving door, right? Obviously, like you said, Turnbull had a great start to the season. Then, obviously, with the injury, we're not going to see him for a little bit. But yeah, they've gotten kind of lucky there. And that's really, like, if you look at it, a lot of these were just like peripheral moves. Like even Allard the other day, he pitched okay, right? I mean, they lost because of the home run that Alvarado gave up. But for a guy coming in to a fifth spot, making his first start of the season, I thought he pitched fine. Obviously, we know Tyler Phillips has been great, and I think he's making a case for himself to stay in the rotation. But obviously injuries happen, right? Taiwan's been out. Ranger will be out for a little bit, so it's like this is why you have those types of guys. But it's been nice because now that Ranger was struggling a little bit, I don't think Wheeler continues struggling. I think yesterday was kind of an enough. You need these guys to step up, and it's a great story this season for Tyler Phillips so far, obviously. But it's not even like it's just like, oh, it's a great story. He's pitching serviceably. Like he is pitching dominantly. Like he is good.
Incredible. And I think there's a lot of people that identify with the specific level of intensity that he brings when he's coming off the field.
I love that.
And the local connection just makes everybody kind of double down on it. The fact that he's a South Jersey Bishop Eustace kid that, was at the games at the vet with his dad. I heard a story the other day that he was supposed to go to the Roy Halladay no-hitter with his dad, but his dad ends up taking a family friend and he got kind of like on the outs. But like, the idea that you have that South Jersey connection too, just kind of like it interweaves the story into everything that makes everybody double down on the fact that he's also been really productive. He's one of 12 pitchers in MLB to throw a complete game shutout, and the Phillies have 4 out of the 12.
Yeah,
had complete game shutouts from Tyler Phillips, Christopher Sanchez, Ranger, and Nola.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that actually, probably our best pitcher is the one who's kind of excluded there. But yeah, I mean, hey, and it's good though, like seeing these guys go deep into games. Because I mean, another one who I just talked about all these different people, and I can't believe I've forgotten to mention him. Christopher Sanchez has been crazy good this season too. I mean, I know on the road his numbers are a little bit are not great, but I think there was really just 1 or 2 starts where he kind of got lit up a little bit. But I mean, for a guy who was kind of on the periphery of the rotation coming into the season to pitching and having numbers like a 2 or 3 starter, you really can't ask for much more than that.
No, it's been a pleasant surprise, right? Because you've seen some struggles as of late. You've seen guys struggle coming out of the All-Star break, but you're also seeing a lot of guys that have these moments of production. I don't need to see Garrett Stubbs on the mound anymore. That I don't need to see the rest of the season. So let's figure out a way to not get lambasted by anybody else to the point where you have to have your backup catcher back in there, because that I don't need to see.
No.
Talk about some moves in the NL East, because you've got the Braves and the Mets kind of flip-flopping back and forth. The Braves are 8.5 out, the Mets are 9.5 out. So in the playoff race, they're kind of battling each other for that NL wild card between themselves and the Padres. Talk about some moves with the Mets first, and then we'll go to the Braves.
Why am I blanking? I know I could see being down the shore is throwing me all off here. The Mets I know they picked up 2 guys. Who did they get yesterday? I know the Braves got Soler.
So the Braves end up late last night. The Braves trade for Jorge Soler and Luke Jackson from the Giants.
Yes.
I'm trying to go through here real quick. I just lost it.
It was two pitchers, right?
Mm-hmm. There's a position player too.
I'm
trying to just go back.
No, the Mets are going all there. Yeah, I know they're because they're trying to take that wild card spot from the Braves.
So Mets on July 27th got Jesse Winker from the Nationals.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I forgot about Winker.
But they did. I'm trying to. They got Ryan Stanek from the Mariners.
That's right. I think with Winker. Oh, sorry. There's another one.
I'm just going back through. I don't think so.
All good. Yeah. That. Anyway, with Winker, I think
Phil Maton from the Rays.
I know he was kind of a free agent guy that they were talking about potentially in the offseason. He has some decent stuff. I don't think any of those guys though are necessarily game changers. Winker is a big, kind of big swing guy, has power potential, but he's also super inconsistent. Stanek, I guess, is probably the best of those guys there. Yeah, I mean, they definitely, especially the way Diaz has kind of been pitching for them. I know, like the bullpen help, obviously, was probably one of their top priorities anyway. But yeah, it's I'm actually surprised in how the Mets have kind of rebounded because number one, I think they were projected to not be great this season. They started out and they were absolutely laughable for much of the first half, but then kind of at the end there, once we hit July, they kind of went on a couple different little tears there. So yeah, it's actually, and the Braves obviously are missing some guys, for missing a lot of guys from injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to make some moves too, and it seems like every move the Braves make, it always pans out. So Jorge Soler to me is probably a bigger swing and miss guy than Jesse Winker, but when he does hit one, it goes 430 feet every time.
I mean, didn't he have a one the other like a week and a half ago that was like the longest home run this year? It was like at Coors Field, it was over 450 feet or some crap like that.
Yeah, I forget how far it was, but yeah, no, he can. I mean, if his big long swing can somehow make contact, it's going far. So I don't think, again, with either of those teams, I don't think either of those moves make them that much better, but I think they're necessities just because of injuries or lack of production in other places. So I think, obviously they help both teams get a little bit better, but neither move like scares me.
No, not at all.
They're just going to kind of be, going against each other there, trying to go, okay, we're getting it back, we're getting it back, we're getting it on. So
yeah, I think the other team to keep an eye on today is the Dodgers. Right, they're always going to, with the way that their front office will spend money. I think they're always kind of in the move. They're always in the mood to spend money.
Yeah, and they're a team that has another snake-bitten injury team. I mean, the amount of starting pitchers they have on the IL, or now, I saw Kershaw just came back, obviously, but the amount of people they have on the IL, it's like that team is still playing well. But yeah, I would not be surprised if they made another move.
Yeah, they make the move for Amer Rosario from the Rays, and then they're part of that the 3-team deal where they get Tommy Edman and Kopech, and then they get Oliver Gonzalez in that 3-team trade with the White Sox. And I don't know. They seem to me like a team that's just kind of laying in the weeds. And it wouldn't surprise me, to hear Crochet on the market today, that they have the depth in the farm system to be able to go and get, a guy like that. And then, you spend the time convincing him to maybe sign that extension. Cause I'm listening to Buster Olney this morning. They're talking about the fact that like, he'll go and play, but he might have a restriction where he doesn't want to pitch in the postseason without the extension, and not sure where that move is going to take them. But that also wouldn't surprise me if that was a move that they also made.
Yeah, no, that's to me that's their need, right? I mean, offensively they're pretty set. They got Kopech for the bullpen move there. So I think the last thing that they need to do is get another starting pitcher, just because of the injuries they've had with everyone. I know Yamamoto. Yamamoto will be back at some point. But yeah, they've had a lot of starting pitching injuries. So I think that's, if the Dodgers are going to make a move, that was when you were saying Garrett Crochet, that was kind of the first team that popped up in my head. Like, hey, they might starting pitching help.
Where does Tanner Scott end up?
That's a good question. I could see him. So I mean, I feel like there's just so many teams that could be in the market for a closer, and I think right now he's the best one out there. That's a good question. Because I just feel like there's been some kind of like unpredictable stuff here. So I don't know. That's a good question. I honestly hope if it's anywhere, it would be an AL team, so we don't have to we don't have to deal with them. Because I know in Miami right now he's not getting as many opportunities because they're just not really winning games. But I think if you see him on a team that has the lead, you're going to see a lot more Tanner Scott and hear a lot more about him.
Yeah, I think to just go completely off the radar too. That one of the funniest scenarios in terms of this MLB trade deadline is the Red Sox trading for Danny Jansen. Have you heard this story? So
I don't think you heard the story now.
So he gets traded from the Blue Jays to the Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a game that was rain delayed earlier on in the season. He played for the Blue Jays at the beginning of that game. When that game resumes, he will be part of the Red Sox.
Wow.
He could be one of the first players in MLB history to be a player on both teams in essentially what would be in the same game.
That's kind of crazy. Yeah, see, being down the short here, I'm not checking my Twitter as much, so I'm missing all these interesting little gems here.
It's just one of those things, man. It's just I love those little intricacy things, those little things that seem to essentially they only happen in baseball. And it could be between that and the Tony Gwynn statistics. I saw one the other day, and I'm going to misquote it because I can't find it right now. But they were talking about Joey Votto and his strikeout rate compared to Tony Gwynn's, and it was something crazy. Like he could go if Joey Votto played for the next 46 seasons and had 0 strikeouts for the next 46 seasons, that his strikeout rate would still be higher than Tony Gwynn's career.
Wow.
Like just strange things like that are just wild. Just crazy. So looking ahead, before we jump out of here, looking ahead, you're going to have an opportunity to really get tested over the next couple, the next course of the schedule, right? You're going to finish out this series with the Yankees. And then you're going to hit some challenges, right? You're going to hit them at the beginning of August. You're going to go out you're going to play, the West Coast. You're going to play 3 in Seattle. You're going to play 3 in LA, and then you're going to play 4 in Arizona.
Yeah, that's tough. And, Seattle, I know their offense is not really great, but their pitching staff is
really
probably
good.
We've talked about the Phillies starting pitching staff being one of the best in baseball. I mean, when we say one of the best, it's because you have teams like the Mariners and their pitching staff is probably one of the only ones in baseball that can rival what the Phillies have done this year. So I think, especially if our offense is still, mired in this little slump here, I think they're really going to struggle to put up runs if they don't start against, really good pitching like that. If some of these guys don't start heating up soon. Obviously, we know what the Dodgers can do, right? They're always a good team. And, Arizona, little rematch series here of the NLCS on the road, always tough. They don't play well in that stadium. I feel like every time, and this is even going back before, the playoffs last year. I just feel like they never play well in that stadium. And, they actually have a decent team. But they're just I don't know. They don't necessarily scare me, but they have some guys you kind of got to worry about, right? Christian Walker is obviously good. They have some pitching in Zach Gallen, and Brandon Pfaadt has actually been. He's had some pretty good starts this year and everything. Mm-hmm. So it is going to be a tough stretch. Anytime you go on the road for that long, it's always a lot. But yeah, you just got to make sure you don't let anything slip away here, right? You're not going to expect them to win every single one of those series probably at this point. But you also don't want to go out there and take on any sweeps either. So win games, try to win a couple series, and just try to hold your ground, stay afloat here, while hopefully other teams in the NL are kind of sitting around floundering too.
Yeah, I think you have to. They were on such a torrent streak earlier on in the season, right? You do. I hate to say this, but you do have that buffer of how well you played earlier on in the season. But you have to start to play better than 500 in this, in the month of August. I think you've, with the way that the other teams in the NL have played, by having this lull now, you've essentially missed out on that opportunity to be able to just kind of really separate yourself. Even if they were playing they're playing 500 ball right now. Mm-hmm. If they were playing just a shade, if they're, playing just a shade better, right? The games that they've given up late leads in Minnesota, in Pittsburgh, they're a couple of at bats away from taking 2 out of 3 in certain series. You could be really looking at a 10, 12, 13 game lead if those games flip flop and go the other way. So you're going to get tested. You're going to see where you are, and you're going to be on the West Coast for, until they don't come home after this series with the Yankees. They don't come home and play another home game until August 13th. So
August 13th. That's a long time on the road. Yeah. It's 2 weeks.
You're going to be out there for a couple weeks. And, by the time you come back, we'll see where they are, because then you're going to have some opportunities when they come back, because you're going to see a series that they've got a 2-game series with Miami, and then they've got 4 straight at home with Washington. And both of those teams will clearly be out of any kind of, well, I mean, they already are, but like they will even be further in the rearview mirror. And you're going to need those games, because then you're going to double back at the end of August with, you're going to have to go down and play a 3-game series in Atlanta, and you don't want Atlanta to be within earshot of you. So,
you got to take advantage and go back to beating those bad teams, right? Beat up on the Marlins, beat up on the Nationals. Yeah. And then, right now, the Braves, a lot of it's injury. It's forced because of injuries, but that's our chance to kind of bury the Braves right there.
Yeah. So, listen, if anything else on the way out the door, because I will tell you, final thoughts, man. The writing and the articles, if you have not gone and checked out the stuff from you and your colleagues with That Ball's Out of Here, some really great stuff, especially centered around the trade deadline. They've got some really good content over there. So if you haven't checked out some of that stuff, go check it out. Eric, you got some really cool stuff over there. So shout out to you and your partners over at That Ball's Out of Here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, everyone does a good job over there. It's a lot of fun writing for them. So yeah,
on the way out the door.
No, I'm curious to see what happens with the trade deadline today. Like I said, I'm not fully expecting anything big here, but just something to kind of keep an eye on, monitor. Not even just for the Phillies, but just around baseball. See how if any team that could be a potential threat later on makes any big moves too, like the Dodgers, making a splash somewhere. So I'll just be kind of monitoring that today, and I really hope that Garrett Cole's been hittable since he's returned a little bit here. So. Maybe today will be the offense's turn it around day.
We'll see it. Hopefully, we see a little get right today. So, listen, we'll be back in a couple weeks to check everything out. But on the way out, go Phils.
Yeah, go Phils.
Philies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.